Ukraine's offense as defense in Kursk has left Russia in a quandary. On August 6, 2024, 12.000 Ukrainian Army, AFU, soldiers suddenly invaded Kursk and more than 6 months have passed since then. And the Russian Army, RFAF, has not been able to dislodge the enemy from the territory. If the Russian soldiers were initially thought to have lost their vigilance, allowing the AFU to quickly capture 1.300 square kilometers of territory, then in theory, after Moscow mobilized elite reinforcements, the Battle of Kursk should have ended long ago. However, the thorn continues to exist to this day. So what is the reason? Russia has not yet been able to dislodge the enemy from Kursk. Although the area of Kursk occupied by the AFU has been drastically reduced from 1.300 kilometers to 380 square kilometers, there are currently up to 8 elite AFU brigades that still rely on forests and trenches on the grasslands to fight. In addition, in the Sumy province of Ukraine, bordering the Kursk region, the AFU has 4 other elite brigades serving as reserves for the Kursk force. The RFAF has also concentrated up to 60.000 troops in the Kursk region, including apparently 10.000 soldiers from the North Korean Storm Corps. According to battlefield information released by the Russian Ministry of Defense, in combat operations on the Kursk front, as of February 20, the RFAF had eliminated more than 62.200 Ukrainian soldiers, destroyed 373 tanks, 279 infantry fighting vehicles, 229 armored personnel carriers and 1.947 armored fighting vehicles, 2.096 motor vehicles, 461 artillery pieces and various equipment, regardless of whether the battlefield information released by Moscow is completely accurate or not. It is important to understand one important point. That is, the AFU has continuously used 14 elite brigades and other independent combat units to hold the Kursk area as a bargaining chip for future negotiations. And they certainly will not give up easily. On the other side, the RFAF mobilized 50.000 elite troops, plus soldiers from the North Korean Storm Corps, to encircle AFU from 3 sides at once, and the RFAF made every effort to attack AFU. In general, the RFAF had 3 major advantages when operating in the Kursk area: right time, right place, and right people. The RFAF received all-weather fire support from the aerospace forces. Guided glide bombs continued to attack AFU positions. Iskander tactical ballistic missiles could fly to Kursk and Sumy at any time to attack the assembly positions of Kiev forces. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops advancing into Kursk were unable to continue their advance after being fiercely stopped by the RFAF. And the AFU had to switch to defense and fall into a dilemma. In this way of fighting, Moscow's forces turned Kursk into a real grinder, forcing the enemy to continuously send reinforcements to the front. This is Moscow's strategic response to go with the flow, turning passivity into initiative. RFAF did not rush but fought slowly to wear down and hold back the elite fighting force of up to 14 brigades of the AFU in Kursk to create favorable conditions for other battlefields. This objectively contributed to the continuous victories of Moscow's forces on the battlefield in eastern Ukraine in the second half of 2024. Now, Moscow's forces have surrounded Kupiansk in Kharkov, crossed the Oskil River to continue expanding the bridgehead, with the aim of completely capturing this strategic city. On the Donetsk battlefield, the defense line built from 2014 to 2022 was breached by RFAF. Moscow captured the city of Torezk. After taking Kurakhov, the largest settlement controlled by the AFU in southern Donetsk, the RFAF is fighting to create a siege on the city of Pokrovsk, which is likely to fall in the coming months. At the strategic fortress of Velika Novoselka in the extreme south of Donetsk, after many days of resistance, the AFU had to retreat. The next step for the RFAF is to attack Kostiantinyuka as well as Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. The battle for the remaining 3 fortresses in Donbass will be another fierce battle with heavy losses for both sides. Ukraine takes offense as defense to hold firm in Kursk. According to the Russian website Topwar, Moscow's recapture of the Kursk region, which was occupied by the AFU since August last year, was not easy. The heat and fierceness of the fighting in this area can be assessed through the official information released daily by the Russian Ministry of Defense. According to most Russian bloggers and war correspondents, the liberation of the Kursk region is difficult, but it will not stop. In particular, the Donbass Partisan channel believes that the prerequisites for recapturing the strategic town of Sudra have appeared. This is evidenced by the fact that the RFAF has reached the Sokolny Yar area on the eastern flank of the Ukrainian offensive. the capture of which would threaten the supply line of the enemy garrison in Gwevo and could lead to the AFU having to withdraw from Sudra and other populated areas. Fearing being cut off from the main force, analysts note that the AFU is trying to maintain control of the heights north of Gwevo. But there, Russian firepower is pounding heavily, destroying fortifications and logistical supply points, thereby weakening the defense capabilities of the remaining AFU in Kursk. According to the Archangel Spetsnaz channel, despite fierce fighting in the Kruglanki area, the situation there has not changed significantly. To prevent the RFAF from breaking through in this direction, the AFU is strengthening its defenses in the Nikolaevka area and sending reinforcements there. In addition, the most important step forward of Moscow's forces is the defeat of Sverdlikovo on the western flank, gradually approaching the strategic fortress of Sudra. Despite many advantages, Russia's current strength is not enough to launch a large-scale general offensive. Because of the large number of casualties in combat, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has evolved from a special military operation launched by Russia unexpectedly in early 2022 into a real war, and it is a long-term war of attrition. On January 15, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced in his speech that the current total strength of the AFU is 880,000 people to fight against 600,000 Russian soldiers. Mr. Zelensky pointed out that, although Kiev's total number of troops is larger, the RFAF has a dense distribution of troops in some areas, thereby forming a numerical advantage in specific areas. Simply put, the RFAF is the one who actively chooses the target of attack, can concentrate superior forces on certain battlefields and destroy each group of Ukrainian troops stationed. As the defending side, the AFU can rely on fortifications to eliminate a large number of Russian troops, or actively defend and prepare for counterattacks. However, in combat, the RFAF has air superiority and firepower at the front line, so the defensive operations of the Kiev forces are not stronger than the enemy. Regarding counterattack defense, Kiev's choice to attack Kursk with 14 brigades can be considered an active defense strategy. But unfortunately, President Zelensky is waging a political war, not a purely military one. On February 20, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that the RFAF had entered the Sumy region after taking control of Sverdlikovo. The key task of the Russian army at this stage in the Kursk border area is to cut off the main supply route of the Kiev group of forces operating in the area to break into Russian territory. South of the village of Sverdlikovo is the narrow valley of the Loknia River, which flows across the border of the Sumy region and goes south as far as Yunakovka. Logistically, the settlement itself is a collection point for supplies that are brought from Sumy and then along the 38K004 highway to Sudra and then distributed to the AFU units. Once the logistics are lost, Kiev forces will have difficulty resisting for a long time, but at least in the short term of 1 to 2 months, it is unlikely that Russia will be able to completely dislodge the enemy from the Kursk region.